favorite line to say from Carrie Chapman Catt is, Alice, you ringlead your insurgent circus in my name and on my dime, but I've let you flout me for the last time.
Keep marching, 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 keep marching on.
My name is Marya Grandy, and I play Carrie Chapman Catt on the first national tour of SUFFS. My agents submitted me and sent me an email saying, hey, you want to submit a self-tape to do this? And I was very surprised, honestly, because I got to see it in New York and I really, really loved it. And so when I got the appointment, I assumed it was going to be for Woodrow Wilson. And so when it was for Carrie Chapman Catt, I double checked with my agents. Honestly, I said, are you sure this is who they want me to come in for? And they said, yep, absolutely. They want you to do this. And because in my career, I have been mostly a character actress. So oftentimes in musicals, you will have your leading lady, and then she will often have sort of a comedic foil that is either her best friend or a like dotty aunt figure who is there to kind of bring comic relief or to serve as exposition in a way. And that has kind of been my lane. And it's a great lane to be in. Musicals need the character actors, they need the character actor, they need comic foils. The role of Carrie Chapman Catt is very much a leading lady. Like it is the story of SUFFS is essentially the story of the suffragist movement told through the eyes of Carrie Chapman Catt, Alice Paul, and Ida B. Wells. And so I guess that is what I mean when I say, when I got submitted for the show, I was surprised that I was being submitted for one of the leading ladies as opposed to what would be considered like a character actor part.
'Cause I'm a great American bitch. She's a great American bitch. She's a great American bitch.
Because this is a musical adaptation, I didn't want to get so kind of lost in the weeds with the minutia of the kind of person that Carrie Chapman Catt was, because I wanted to be open to interpretation. So I start where we all start, reading excerpts of Doris Stevens' book, Jailed for Freedom, and The Woman's Hour, of course, and doing some Google image searches just to kind of get a sense of what her physicality was. She existed at a time before the moving image was regularly being utilized. So there isn't really any video footage of her easily available to me. And I think that, and certainly not a whole lot of audio. So that was very helpful because it kept me from feeling like I needed to do an impression or an impersonation of her. And it also was nice because if I don't have access to that, then our audiences don't have access to that either. So they're not coming in with a preconceived notion of what she should look like or sound like. And then also just a basic kind of exploration of what politics were like at the time, a little bit of a deeper dive into Woodrow Wilson and just how long the suffrage movement had been going on. I didn't want to flood myself with so much data that I would come into the first day of rehearsals being overeducated and closed off. And then emotionally, I feel like I'm still getting my sea legs because it's a heavy lift to tell this story 8 times a week because it feels like it could be happening today. I think a lot of people, including myself, like before I knew about the show, I did not know that women were being imprisoned and tortured and murdered, basically, disappeared for fighting for their basic human rights. America's and Washington, D.C. is seen as the shining city on a hill. And to realize that people in power were doing this to their own citizens because they had the audacity to ask to be treated like everybody else, that's a hard thing to do every week, every 8 times a week. And to feel like you are climbing uphill for 2.5 hours and you get to sing this beautiful music, and there's a ton of humor in our show, and it moves like lightning. It's not a slow show, it's a fast-paced show. And that is hard too, because you have to maintain this energy level throughout. And you can tell yourself all day long that this is just a show. I'm just doing my job. I'm just playing a part. Your body, your central nervous system does not know the difference. Like, you are going through it 8 times a week. And when we have that scene at the State House and it's coming down to a single vote, there's that sense of, oh my gosh, like, we're not going to make it. Like, we're not going to get this ball over the 1 yard line. Like, there's a very good chance we're going to be right back where we started. It's hard. It's a stamina exercise. We're so lucky in that this company, to a person, we all take our jobs very seriously. Nobody takes themselves terribly seriously. So we spend a lot of time letting off steam, being silly with each other off stage so that we can tell this very difficult, ultimately hopeful, but very difficult story on stage.
It's the perfect show for where we are right now, and it will inspire you to keep marching. SUFFS, the Tony-nominated Best Musical on Broadway.
Carrie was a brilliant strategist. She was also incredibly stubborn. She was not at all amenable to Alice Paul's ideas when she first came on the scene, because she was an upstart, because Alice Paul was an upstart. And Carrie really felt like she had been making headway with her approach. I think by acknowledging that she was just a human being. She was another human being. She wasn't a superhero. I love playing that. I love playing somebody who is complicated and messy, because guess what? People are complicated and messy. And especially when you are telling a true story, even though it's musicalized, even though liberties are taken, people want to see themselves represented on stage. It's really important to show us warts and all, because otherwise it feels unattainable. If you watch us and there's nothing that you can grab onto as an audience member, if there's nothing in us that you can relate to, then what are we doing? Like, it has to feel somewhat aspirational because of how complicated and messy and at times unlikable we are, which is, I mean, incredibly radical for women. The idea of being unapologetically unlikable at times is anathema to being a woman in America. And Carrie Chapman Catt was very polite when she needed to be, but like, her hackles would get raised and forget it. Like, she would lay into people. This isn't just about women's history. I think because this is about history, and it is about equality, and it makes me emotional. It's about the building of a more perfect union. And you can't have a more perfect union if you are excluding over 50% of the population, full stop. I love how she and her partner, Molly Hay, essentially lived their lives out. There wasn't really, I think because at the time, women were women who had been widowed at an early age, and Carrie Chapman Catt was widowed twice before I think she was 35. Women who had been widowed early often had these huge houses that needed to be taken care of, and they couldn't shoulder the financial burden of it themselves. So they would often have like a fellow widow come and live with them to help share the cost of the house. And sometimes it would be a completely platonic relationship or entirely business oriented, but sometimes romantic love would result from it. And that's what happened. I mean, Molly Hay had been part of the suffragist movement as well in her own right, but they were very much, for all intents and purposes, a married couple. And to the point where they are buried next to each other. Like they were life partners. And I think my favorite thing was that Carrie Chapman Catt's nickname was the Chief. And like, that is how the governor of Tennessee referred to her, like when things were getting down to the wire, because Tennessee knew that it was going to be the final state to vote. And the governor of Tennessee, who was in favor of suffrage, was seeing how the winds were blowing in the South, saying, oh gosh, we could lose it all on a single vote here. And he sent a telegram saying, get the chief down here. Like he referred to her as the chief. I am not sure. I suspect she might have nicknamed herself this.
I've never felt so alive before. Out here together, I realize I'm not alone anymore. I feel a part of something bigger than me. Something bigger.
So many people, when they come to see SUFFS or they're talking about SUFFS, they say, it's such a wonderful show to bring your daughter to, or your sister to, or your mother to. This show isn't about women's history. The show is about history. Bring your sons, bring your nephews, bring your brothers, bring your dads, bring your grandparents, like bring your grandfather. I want everybody to understand the basic human rights that people were fighting for in this period of time. I hope it motivates people to do something. I had friends at the show a couple of months ago, and they brought their 10-year-old daughter. And there's a line in the show where one of the male characters says to one of the suffragists, he says, oh, you're the suffragettes. And she says, actually, it's suffragists, not suffragettes. Suffragettes is a word that was made up in the press to, and I'm paraphrasing here, to essentially not take us seriously, to make us seem more like sort of Cupid dolls. And my 10-year-old friend Vivi came backstage. She gave me a huge hug. And before she said hi or anything, she said, it's suffragists, Marya, not suffragettes. I said, you're absolutely right, Vivi. And she went to school the next day and was talking about the show. And she led with, by the way, it's suffragists, not suffragettes. So even like tiny little things like that, it makes a difference because it lays the groundwork. The more personal it is, the more universal it is. So if a 10-year-old can come to our show and that is her takeaway, I'm here for it because it means she's mad. I want people to be mad by the end of our show, like mad to the point where it motivates them to action. I don't want them to like swirl and go on the internet and find rabbit holes. I want them to take like the stirring quality of our show and figure out a way to put their anger into positive action. There's no action that's too small that won't make some kind of impact. Like the only action that won't make an impact is no action.
Take a virtual field trip about women's suffrage with the National Women's History Museum.